Ready to go here for this season. How would you describe the level of confidence and optimism surrounding a Dallas Cowboys team in your mind when so many others have so many questions?
Yeah, I'm like so many others. I have so many questions because I think there's a lot of unproven players that they've added to this roster that they're going to need to step up. And it's hard for me to have faith in unproven players when they're in a structure or in a system and under a head coach who hasn't really shown us the ability to kind of make the decisions that will put these players in the right positions to succeed. So it's going to be a lot of pressure on Dak Prescott, which I guess is nothing new. There's always a lot of pressure on Dak Prescott, but I'm very much looking forward to everyone hating on him all season long and him disproving them. But I do not have high expectations. They're not a Super Bowl caliber team right now. They could compete with the Eagles to win the division, but that's about it.
Here's what I'll say, Jeremy. To me, if you're hating on Dak Prescott, then boy, are you missing the point. He's the only sure thing they have. They have an excellent quarterback. That might be the only thing they have that we feel really good about right now. And the questions are really mostly about the coach. How would you describe, from the people you talk to, how solid the ground is under Mike McCarthy as the season begins?
Well, Dallas is going to give him a fair shot. You know, they're not looking to move on right now. They feel good about where he's at. They say, hey, you know, talking to people in Dallas, we won 12 games last year. I know it didn't end the way everybody wanted it to, but there's going to be added pressure this year because of all the pieces they've lost. And really, we talk about Dak Prescott. I asked a few execs this week about some MVP sneaky candidates, and his name comes up. They say this might be his best chance because no left tackle right now, multiple wide receivers out. Questions about Zeke's explosiveness, it's all on him right now, maybe more so than even the coach.
You know why they said that? Because they're watching this show, and I've been saying it all summer long. Tannenbaum, I've been saying it all summer. If the Cowboys are going to win that division, if the Cowboys are going to win something like 12 games again, it's going to be because that guy who wears the number 4 has a huge season, takes it from where he is now, which is a very good quarterback, and becomes what some people think he has a chance to be, which is that little handful of the very best guys in the entire league. He can do that, and if he does, that's Dallas's only chance.
And he can. He's that type of quarterback. And I'm more focused on what they do have. They have Dalton Schultz, who caught 78 passes. Tony Pollard should play more in the slot to get him on the field. He averages 6.2 yards per touch. I think CeeDee Lamb has the ability to be a bona fide number 1 receiver, Greeny. They will get Michael Gallup back. And look, Tyler Smith is far from perfect, but he is a first-round pick that they like a lot. And when we go to the other side of the ball, this is going to be year 2 with Dan Quinn, and he had a major impact a year ago. So, look, I don't like their injuries either. I'm concerned about not having Amari Cooper. But this team has plenty of good players. And let's remember this, Greeny. They have the best quarterback in the NFC East. And at the end of the day, that will make the difference.
They have the only proven quarterback in the NFC East at this point, and that is an enormous difference maker. And Dominique, quickly on that defense, because there's so much attention paid because the big names, most of them anyway, are on the offense. But the defense could be the strength of this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think their defense was really good last year, but it was dependent on a lot of turnovers, and those can be fickle. You can't count on those things to repeat themselves. So I think Dan Quinn is going to be very focused on the fundamentals, trying to bring down the penalties, trying to continue to create turnovers, but also trying to figure out what the hell to do with Micah Parsons. And it's not because there's a wrong place to put him. Anywhere you put him is the right place to put him, but they have to figure out where to put him in order to have the greatest impact. And it may just be a rush in because it seems like he can get pressure as good as any of these great rush-ins we have in the league right now. Micah Parsons, who's an off-ball linebacker, is probably more productive by a statistical standpoint than the rest of those guys out there. So figuring out how to integrate him in an offense in a way that maximizes his productivity is a good problem to have for Dan Quinn, but it's a big problem right now.
Well, you know, it's an interesting point. A little later in the show, we're going to talk at length about Micah Parsons. In basketball now, we use this expression positionless. Micah Parsons might be the first positionless defensive player in the NFL. And, oh, by the way, he might just be the best defensive player in the NFL. We'll talk about him a little bit later. In the meantime, we're talking about Lamar Jackson. After Russell got his new deal, all eyes on Russell Wilson agreeing on a 5-year, $245 million extension that includes $165 million in guaranteed money. That's the third most in NFL history. Here was Russell Wilson after the deal yesterday.
I had an amazing first, decade in my career. The next decade, I'm really excited about. I think that we want to make this a destination location. I think that it's one of those things. We have amazing tradition, an amazing football team. For me, it wasn't really about how much necessarily. It was about how many Super Bowls we can win. I wanted to be here for a long time. I believe this is a marriage, and you want to be here for a long time. And my goal is to be able to finish my career here.
All right, so let's dive into this one deeply. Mike Tannenbaum, you were with me yesterday. Jeremy Fowler here. Dominique, you were with me yesterday when Adam Schefter broke the story while we were on the air. And my immediate reaction was slam dunk all the way around. And then the day went on, Dominique, and I was somewhat surprised to hear a bit of a narrative emerging asking the question, will the Broncos regret this long and extremely expensive extension with Russell Wilson? What's the answer to that question, Dominique?
Absolutely not. Like, I understand the argument that Russell kind of unleashed with new ownership, first-year head coach, and with out of the structure of Pete Carroll's kind of restrictive offensive philosophy, that maybe he's not going to be the player that he was in the past. And he wasn't playing that well towards the end of his time there last season. I can understand that argument, but I think it's absurd. Like, the game is a football, and life in general is about risk, and this is not a high risk. He's a great, great player, and right now they've locked him up until 2028, I believe, at 2022 prices. So this is a smart deal for the Broncos. It's hard to imagine a team that's been in quarterback purgatory for quite some time regretting locking up a guy that is a Super Bowl caliber player and gives you a chance in just about every game with that talent that they have around him.
Mike T, if you were the general manager there, would you have had any pause about the deal they did yesterday?
No, because you have a chance to win a championship, as Dominique just alluded to. Look, when you look to your left and your right, it's Patrick Mahomes and it's Justin Herbert. So it's the cost of doing business to play in the AFC West. But with that said, Greeny, from 2024 to 2025, his cap number goes up by $20 million. So they will lose some good players in a couple years when his cap number is about $55 million. That could be Patrick Surtain, Javonte Williams, and that's not ideal. But you know what? Playing quarterback with Drew Lock isn't ideal either. So you get the quarterback and you put as many good pieces around him, and now they have a chance to compete year in and year out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people who are complaining about this deal or questioning it are the ones who have ones who root for teams that have great quarterbacks. Because there are two kinds of teams in the NFL: those who have guys like Russell Wilson, and those who desperately need one. That's the way I see it anyway. And you all know where I come from on all this. What'd you hear around the league after this was announced yesterday?
Well, the key is Seattle here, because, asking around the league, they were not saying let's ride to this contract a year ago when they decided to trade him. They were feeling like we need to rebuild our roster. We're not going to go all in. They knew if they kept Russell Wilson there, they would have had to have redone that deal in a major way. And they wanted to get better in some other areas where Denver said, hey, have you seen our quarterback roster the last 7 years? Like, we are fine with this contract. And they can get out of it down the road. It's not fully guaranteed. So after 4 years, if there's some sort of decline in play, they can move on. They are certainly not expecting that right now.
Fair enough. And look, the fully guaranteed piece of this, I understand that's an important part of this story in the big picture of the NFL. But I still want to stay on the specifics. Dominique, I feel like people are downgrading, underplaying, underrating, and understating Russell Wilson. I still consider him to be in the handful of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe he's not Aaron Rodgers, and maybe that's always been his problem, that he sees himself as Aaron Rodgers and he isn't. But he's only a half a step down, which puts him a full step at least above almost everybody else. How good do you think Russell Wilson is right this minute?
Yeah, I think Russell Wilson is great, but I'm not sure that he is like all-time great, which is what we thought he was on the trajectory to be. And we saw what happened to kind of his career, and it's not terrible, obviously, but we thought that the league, and I think he thought that the league was going to be handed over to him after Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers aged out. They never aged out. And then a bunch of young guys showed up and started playing better. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And it feels like he's kind of this lost guy in the middle. And I think that he probably has a chip on his shoulder because of it. So we can expect him trying to come out and reestablish himself as one of those all-time greats and kind of take back the league that I think he believed would be his if those old guys would ever hang it up, even though it seems like they're never going to.
Yeah, well, look, Brady is still there, and Rodgers is still there, and maybe sometimes to some degree they give people the wrong impression of what we should be perceiving an old player to be. One way or another, Mike Tannenbaum, there was a list of quarterbacks in the NFL who you say, I've got him, I've got a chance. There isn't any question that Russell Wilson is still on that list, right?
Exactly right, Greeny. And again, the inverse is catastrophic. And you know it being a Jet fan over the last couple of years when you have question marks, or you look at the Colts who go from Carson Wentz and Phillip Rivers, Andrew Luck, Jacoby Brissett. If you don't have that position solidified, you have no chance, especially in the superpowers of the AFC when we talk about Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, on and on and on. So at least they have a chance. And he's not ideal. He's a little short. He's 33, but he's won a championship. You can win championships with Russell Wilson. He's probably not top 5. He's certainly top 10. And again, the alternative is you have no hope.
Nick, why are you making that face? Is it because I became collateral damage with the Jets in there?
No, it's more because listening to Tannenbaum talk about how you need these great quarterbacks today, and also listening to him yesterday talking about how people need to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. It just is an interesting juxtaposition or contradiction.
Well,
if you think
we appreciate you watching.
Hold that thought. We will get to Jimmy Garoppolo a little later. Super quick. Does this have a major impact on the Lamar Jackson situation? That's the other part of it, and we'll deal with him mostly later. But the guaranteed money piece of this, what did people around the league say about it yesterday?
Well, the feeling around the league is that Lamar Jackson's going to want stronger guarantees on a deal, which is why